In a world of seemingly endless podcasts comes what many would call another one. Welcome to the Two Men podcast with your hosts Tim Matson and Phil Powell. Now please join these two confirmed men, that's two moderately entertaining nerds, as they take you on another podcast adventure that's guaranteed to be funny. Or not. This week the two men discuss the challenges of being fashionable.
Welcome to another episode of the Two Men podcast.
With me and your other me.
Me.
Yeah, we're both me's. No. So today we're going to talk about something which might shock you.
Something that's near and dear to our hearts.
Something in which we are keenly aware of, I think, really.
I think you're pushing it now.
All right, maybe so. We're going to talk about fashion.
Fashion. Do you know what got us on this topic was I was looking at Phil's counter over here, and he has this incredibly fashionable belt buckle.
Well, there was a time in America when you could judge a man's character by his belt buckle.
By the size of his belt buckle, yes.
Well, and the saying on his belt buckle.
It's true.
This is before you had places where you could express yourself, and so you had to express yourself on yourself.
Did you ever have a belt buckle with your name on it?
No, but I wanted one.
I did. I had one.
It said...
I had two different ones.
So was it all like 70s, like funky letter shape?
One was, yes.
Oh,
yeah,
and did you also have high heel shoes? See, we don't wear more...
High heeled shoes, no.
Oh, come on.
I mean, I had I wore cowboy boots. Some.
Come on now. In the 70s, you were alive then.
I was, yes, I was alive in the 70s.
In the 70s, you couldn't go out in public and be cool with that thick, tall heels.
I wore tennis shoes. I didn't wear those.
To like a cool event.
I mean, I guess I did have like some dress shoes that did have a bit of a heel on them, big chunky thing.
Yeah,
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, now you didn't have the ones that they wore on Soul Train because that would have been.
No, I didn't have like Soul Train shoes. No,
but they were.
But the fashion was that they were like a big, thick heel.
Right. That was what I will call when men. They didn't realize it, but they were precipitously close to having high heels. Yeah. That was like the beginning, and it could have evolved into high heels.
I kind of wish that was still a thing because I could use some extra height. I wouldn't mind wearing high heels, to be honest.
Well, there's nobody stopping you.
No, I guess that's really true.
Do you wear those insert things that make you appear taller?
It doesn't show?
No, apparently not.
It's not working? No, I don't wear those. I don't. I joke. I don't feel.
Have you ever?
I've always been short. So.
Have you ever padded your groin to make it look bigger?
Only for comic effect.
Only for comic effect.
Only for comic effect.
Was this in the context of a show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's important to know.
Yeah.
All right.
And the 1 year, my buddy and I did Spinal Tap for Halloween, and so I had a
large groin
cucumber wrapped in tinfoil.
All right.
In my pants.
All right. Okay.
That I would like take out at various points in the evening.
Oh. Were you going
again
around
for comic effect?
Were you going around house to house with this?
No, this was at a party.
Oh, it was at a party, costume party.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So how'd that go over?
In my mind, very well.
Okay, in your mind, very well.
Now, keep in mind the state of that mind was under the influence at the time. So.
Okay.
Your humor mileage may vary.
I dressed up as one of the Kiss characters. I can't remember which one.
Did you really?
Yeah, I'm surprised my parents let me in hindsight.
That's amazing. How old were you?
I don't know. So it was junior high, something like that.
Wow.
Kiss. So like
your parents were religious people.
Yes. I mean, it was like me and Tim Holiday and Mike Coulter.
That's amazing.
And I forget who the other guy was. But I was Gene Simmons because I could stick out my tongue the best.
That makes sense.
I think there were...
Did you know enough to like put that out there as like a feature for the ladies?
I did.
You did? You were aware enough?
No, not for the ladies.
Okay, see? Okay, yeah.
You didn't
know how that worked yet.
No, that was farther down the road. But I thought
I'm presuming something. Do you know why that's a good thing? Okay.
Well,
I'm just checking.
Yes.
This isn't a test.
Yes.
Okay, fine.
I thought you meant something else, which is when I wanted to be Gene Simmons, not as a person.
That's a pretty low life goal.
But I'm just saying I wanted to be him in the costume thing.
Sure.
So I did posit to everyone that I could stick out my tongue further
That's
than,
cool.
than the rest of my contemporaries. Therefore, logically,
By
ergo,
default, you were
I
Gene
was Gene Simmons.
Is there pictorial evidence of this?
I don't think so. I
That's
don't
a
think
shame.
there was.
That's a real shame.
And I running that makeup off because it was awfully hot and sweaty.
It's really terrible.
Yeah.
Do you know the most amazing costume that I ever saw was at SIU. Someone came. This is so tasteless. Someone came as Jackie and JFK post assassination.
Oh, all right.
It was
Oh, what?
horrifying, but really amazing.
All right. You talk about most inappropriate Halloween costume ever. My friend Tom Seymour, who works on visual effects on Criminal Minds, high school buddy of mine, he loves Halloween parties. Okay?
Is this going to impugn his reputation? Do I need to edit this out? Okay, good.
No.
Because this is a working professional here. We can't really risk a career on a stupid podcast.
He might correct me.
Okay.
But he loves Halloween parties. He has always had Halloween parties.
I love Halloween so much.
At one juncture, his dad died in about August.
I don't know if I like where this is going.
And everybody came in costume to Tom's Halloween party. That's his name. One of his friends
Oh my God.
showed up as his dead dad.
This is terrible. Oh my God.
And
Somehow I knew where this was going, and yet it is still so much worse.
he describes it as this moment where my friend Tom, he has a very strange sense of humor, and all of his friends. And so you could tell everybody was kind of like, when he showed up, because his dad was a fireman, so he showed up in a fireman's outfit with his dad's name on it. And when he arrived, he was like,
so tasteless.
it was a moment where he kind of was like, huh? You know what? It's like, are you going to get mad? Are you going to think this is funny? And in the end, he didn't laugh, but he was like, okay, I understand the sentiment. And he goes, a lot of people were upset, but I think it gave him a great story. I think knowing
it's a great story. All right.
but you got to think, that's some balls.
That's some cojones
to
right
come
there.
to a Halloween party dressed as your recently deceased dead dad.
Wow, that totally tops my JFK assassination costume.
Yes.
Woo.
That hits home personal.
That is very personal. That takes tastelessness to a whole new level.
Yeah, I would not recommend that except for if you're very comfortable with risk. Fashion. Remember when men wore their collars up?
Oh, the preppy look? Yes. Yeah, that was that was code for I'm a huge douchebag, I think, is what that was code for, right?
Mm-hmm. You would roll the sleeves up.
Right, Miami Vice.
And you would take a collar that normally you would never do up, and it would like come up around your ears.
Yeah, that was a real thing, especially if you wore two colored shirts, like you wore a dress shirt over another collared shirt, and you pop both of those collars up.
Yeah.
That was really styling.
Yeah. To me, I was like, well, that just looks silly. But then all fashion at the end of the day is silly.
I mean, it's all silly. 10 minutes later, it looks ridiculous.
Now, did people in the Middle Ages have fashion?
I think we've always had fashion. As long as there's been clothing, there's been fashion. You know, remember the big wide collars, those big ruffled collars? Those serve no purpose whatsoever, but they're fashionable.
Maybe this is still true, and I just am too out of it to know it. I would think, though, that would be reserved for the rich, because if you're poor...
Yeah, obviously, I mean, there's nothing more fatuous than fashion.
In the Middle Ages, if you were a servant and basically you could only wear bags or you were naked...
Wear bags.
Well, I'm just saying this. Can you have fashion then? Is there a way for you to be...
Yes, you can, because now, not in the Middle Ages or whatever, but I do know that in early America, women used to make dresses out of feed sacks, and feed companies knew that, and they would make patterned feed sacks.
Pattern? What do you mean pattern?
Well, like
They would put
different
designs on them.
color and design on these feed sacks that women would cut up and make dresses out of eventually.
I can see.
And that was a means of getting your product bought over other product because you provided something. It wasn't just a plain white cloth bag.
I see. So, yeah, all right. So I guess most people would be poor. You're probably not the king in making clothes out of bags.
No.
So I would think that would be...
But see, again, even the poor people, there was fashion involved, even when you didn't have a lot of money because you had to buy these things to feed your livestock.
Mm-hmm.
But then there was also that added bonus is that you had the possibility of making a fashionable dress out of it.
I would think, and here's what's really strange, is if you're poor, you would by necessity be dressed in a skimpy outfit. And the men would be like, well, I would be dressed more modestly, Pastor Jenkins, but I just have the one bag. So, I'm waiting on 3 more bags to come in on the next ship.
Right. It was a small bag, so
it'd be like,
and I don't have this loincloth on.
That's right. And the rest of the pilgrims were like, I know it's impure and I shouldn't have this thought in my heart. But have you seen Sarah's bag dress?
That bag. Oh, man.
I'm seeing knee and I'm seeing collarbone. That's what I'm telling you about. So fashion. So fashion. Tank tops. Don't be overweight and wear them. Although that's a horribly body-shaming statement to say, Tim.
What?
You're body-shaming.
Get into this?
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying it because
if I'm going to shame anybody, it's going to be you about this belt buckle because... Do you want to share with them what it says on your belt buckle?
It says it's a Lord of the Rings belt buckle, and there's an elvish phrase on it.
Quite lovely.
And it says, "Speak, friend, and enter." Which I think I understand.
Let's think about where that's placed on the body.
Right.
And where you would have to be speaking friend into a belt buckle.
Well, and the kind of girl... that you would be interested in that would get that joke. That's...
Well, there is that. If she does get the joke, that's pretty attractive, I do have to say.
But she might not be. That's really what I'm saying.
At that age, it doesn't matter.
Well, here's the thing is, well, you're right. Nowadays,
a girl is a girl.
Nowadays, they've got all these really attractive cosplayer girls that are into this kind of thing.
Cosplay is pretty hot, yeah.
I tell you what, like this is my old man walking in the snow story. When I went to conventions back in the day, there were no girls. I mean, there were a handful. Hey, I tell you what, when I heard that there was a science fiction convention in Terre Haute about Star Trek, like there was a Star Trek
convention.
Did
you go to cons back in the day when you were a kid?
Wanted to. Getting there was a problem, and then also the tickets were expensive. And I just wanted to go to a place where people wanted to talk about Star Trek. But I mean, today in today's cons, there's all these cosplayers, mighty attractive, and some not. But I mean, let's put it this way: forget about
so much time and work into those outfits. I mean, some people buy them. I mean, there are some that buy, but the people that hand make or put together their own cosplays, man, some of those are legitimately amazing.
Yes, they are. And there are female people at conventions. Was not the norm in 1982.
Nerd culture as a whole has welcomed a lot more people into it than it used to be. A lot of people didn't see nerd culture as cool when we were young nerds. It was, you would never see a girl in a comic book shop.
No.
Never.
Lord, no.
Unless she had been dragged there by a boyfriend.
Or she would be usually, and I'm not stereotyping, but it's, as far as I can tell, the truth is she would
be equally socially awkward as you are.
Yes. I mean, there would be, and maybe by a factor of 2, meaning like she would be equally removed from her normative social groups.
Although you thought of yourself as perfectly normal, you saw her as like, oh, that poor girl.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Not realizing that she was over there going, that poor guy.
Well, that poor guy. He's never
God
gonna.
Bless him. Somebody's going to love him someday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is true. Going to, what conventions have you been to? Have you been to a Star Trek convention?
Not an actual Star Trek convention, but I've been to the local con where they've had some guests.
Here at UNCG?
Yeah, okay. whatever that's called.
Stellar Con?
Yeah, Stellar Con. I've been to a couple of those and met Sarek, who's dead now, of course.
Spock's dad?
Yeah, in the original series.
I met Leonard Nimoy.
I saw Leonard Nimoy speak in Lexington while I was in college, but I never met him. Yep. I never shook hands or but he was within spitting distance.
Nice. Did you spit on him? That's very rude.
No, I didn't.
How do you really measure that? People say it's within spitting distance, but is that a standard spit?
You would have to.
Does it vary by the individual?
I would think it varies, and it's like everything else. You have to practice. I'm not a practiced spitter.
Really? I'm not very good at it either. I know some people that can do that between the front teeth kind of spit that seems to go on for a mile.
Yeah.
Well,
I think if you chew tobacco, spitting...
I guess that's good training.
Yeah, spitting, you get because you can't spit near your friends.
No.
Because that wouldn't be polite.
Well, I mean, you can.
That wouldn't be polite,
I mean, it's more polite than spitting on your friends.
That's right. So you got to spit in a specific area, like a bush. Mm-hmm. It's got to be a specific stream. It can't be like a spray. It can't be a spray. It's got to be a line. Mm-hmm. When guys that spit, they...
You know what I find more gross than that is the guys that do the skull or whatever that other stuff is.
Which is not scope.
Snuff or whatever.
It's not scope.
Not scope. No, scope is a mouthwash. Skull is a tobacco that you put in between your lip and gum.
Chaw,
whatever. Yeah. My friend Paul was my roommate, Paul Valek in college. Lost a girlfriend once whenever she picked up his Coke can that he had been using to spit into and took a slug out of it. And she was done with him like lightning.
I think that's legit.
That's pretty gross. I would have broken up with him too.
Although, if he'd been thinking on his feet, and she was indeed his active girlfriend,
God, that's so gross.
I would have made the argument that this was a relative exchange of fluids.
Boy.
And that it was really no less gross than any other encounter that they might have had.
Other things they've been engaging in.
Right.
Okay.
If he'd been thinking on his feet.
Kind of fair, but still at the same time.
But that's not, you don't have those skills about you.
Me personally, not really.
What he should have done is lied. That is what he should have done.
That's what Coke tastes like? You're like, no, that was legitimately Coke.
It's
new Coke.
It's out of fizz stuff. It's out of carbon dioxide or whatever that, not carbon dioxide. What is it? It is carbon dioxide?
Yeah, CO2.
Is that what the canisters are?
Maybe. It's carbon something, right? Because it's carbonated.
It's carbonated.
It's CO2.
I don't know. I used to mess with them, but I don't know what was in them. And I know that when you don't have them, your soda's flat.
Yes. Yeah, because it's what causes the bubbles.
So we drink carbon dioxide? That's so disappointing.
It's disappointing to you?
Well,
that's the thing that disappoints you about the things you drink.
No. I mean, I'm just saying that doesn't seem wise.
I mean, I'm looking at the color of the thing you drink, and that's what it puts me off.
Shouldn't we drink oxygen? I mean, if we're going to drink a gas, shouldn't we drink oxygen?
I mean, you have to breathe it. I mean, it does nothing in your stomach.
Well, it does a lot in your lungs, though.
Sure, but I mean, you don't breathe Coke, or in your case, Diet Mountain Dew. Maybe you do. I don't know what
I'm just saying is,
I would put a lot of it away. You may be breathing it.
I would pay a quarter more for Coke that had oxygen.
Would you? Would you really?
I'd pay a quarter more.
You're such a cheapskate. There's no way you would.
Per Diet Mountain Dew, I'd pay a quarter more
for oxygenated.
Now, I'm sure there's some.
I don't even know if that's possible. Is that possible?
I don't know. But this goes back to our basic ignorance of anything that is really...
That's very true.
Anything, really. The fact that we don't know this shows our basic ignorance. And yet, you changed...
I don't know that that's terribly basic.
You changed canisters at the fast food shop. I'm guaranteed. Yeah. Right. So did I. I changed it at Sonny and Char's. We're back.
Back to Sonny and Char.
We're back. is I changed those canisters
that's an amazing name.
when they would go out of fizziness.
Yeah.
I
mean,
don't.
it's carbon dioxide. It's CO2.
Carbon dioxide. All right. Doesn't seem safe to me. Fashion. What do you think of current fashion?
You mean like skinny jeans and that sort of thing? Although that's kind of passing too, isn't it? Skinny jeans, aren't they?
I think skinny
on
jeans,
their way out.
I think skinny jeans look horrible, and I don't just mean this.
Really?
Yes, and I don't just mean this because
I don't. I think they look pretty good.
I think they look bad for young ladies and young men because here's the thing: is who would ever look at a Dr. Seuss cartoon and go, you know what? That's what I want to look like. Because that's exactly what...
You think they look like Dr. Seuss?
Right, because your legs are wider at the top and they do everything to create this uniform shape so that at the very bottom your ankles are teeny tiny. Mm-hmm. You look like a Dr. Seuss. Anybody that wears skinny jeans, in my mind, I'm thinking, Horton, here's a who. And it kind of detracts from their hotness.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're thinking of Horton, here's a who, that does kind of put you off, unless you have some very strange fetishes. Which
that's right.
It's fine.
I am not attracted sexually to any of to the citizens of Whoville. They got nothing for me. So whenever you're wearing skinny jeans, I'm thinking Dr. Seuss. That's what I'm thinking.
Amazing. Wow.
So, but you apparently, it's okay with you.
I don't have a problem with it at all. I think they can be very fetching.
But if you were to choose between hot pants and skinny jeans, where would you go?
Listen, I'm a fan of the female form, so the more I can see of it, the better.
Okay.
That sounds terribly misogynistic. It's really not.
Misogynistic.
I mean, I think it's objectifying. Yeah, it is a bit, I think.
Mm-hmm. I think that all people...
Although
here's
I've
the thing
made peace with
it is objectifying, but doesn't everybody at some point want to be objectified?
I mean, I suppose. I mean, that's what fashion is for, is to make yourself more attractive.
To be thought of as pretty.
Yeah.
I mean,
that essentially
or handsome or whatever.
That's why we choose the fashions that we do, is because that's what's attractive, or that's what people like or think is fetching or makes people look good.
See, I had a leather jacket that just went to Goodwill that I'd had since like 1984.
Oh, those are awesome.
And it had lots of extra places where you could buckle and zip and stuff like that. That was the style. I saved
Was it
up.
legitimately leather? Was it real leather?
It was. Well,
why would you get rid of that? That's amazing.
I don't know. Here's the thing about leather. It kind of got a funk on it. And I don't know.
What have you been doing in that jacket? That's
well, it used to be, for my wife and I, it used to be kind of, that smell used to be kind of like a trigger.
Is that an aphrodisiac?
Yeah, well, it was a trigger.
Honey, I'm putting on the jacket.
Well, no, it just meant I always wore it on dates with her. So so there was an association there.
That sounds nice.
So
that sounds pretty hot.
But when you let a leather jacket hang in the closet for a long time, it develops this, I don't know.
Closet funk?
It's not even so much that it smelled. I mean, it literally, I don't know how dead skin gets scales on it, but it's like
scales. That doesn't sound good.
It's like a visual funk. It was like you had to clean it to get it off.
That's weird. I don't think I've ever encountered that.
Maybe it was just dust. I don't know. Maybe it just needed dusting.
Maybe you should have dusted it. Yeah.
But it was not attractive. However, I do still have my corduroy jacket, which I still think is fashionable, and I still keep it. And will.
I mean, if people get turned on by professors, I suppose.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. I don't mean a corduroy, like tweed kind of a thing. I'm talking like blue jean corduroy. Is that not a thing, or am I thinking?
I guess. You mean a jean jacket?
A jean jacket, yeah. Isn't that corduroy?
Okay. No, it's blue jean material, isn't it?
Can blue jeans not be corduroy?
No, jeans, blue jeans are a different type of fabric. I mean, there is corduroy fabric. Yeah. It's kind of like ribbed and that.
So like a tweed thing.
Not tweed. Tweed is something else entirely.
So then tell me what corduroy is.
Well, corduroy it's It's got that like ribbed or ridged feel to it whenever you rub your hand across corduroy. It's not like
how's that
tweed.
How's that different than tweed?
Tweed is kind of like fuzzy. It has like a bit of a fuzz to it.
So tweed is fuzzy.
Corduroy is corded. I mean, that's
corduroy is bumpy.
Yeah.
So that's the gist of it.
Kind of.
Corduroy is bumpy. Tweed is fuzzy.
Unless I'm incredibly wrong, which I never am.
And jeans, I'm just naming my jacket wrong.
I guess so, yeah. You have a blue corduroy.
Well, I mean, I'm going to get it.
Go get it.
I got it. I got it right now.
All right, Phil, this is what's happening. Phil's leaving the podcasting area. He's going into the other room. I can see a light has come on. I hear him rummaging around. You should have taken the mic with you so you could narrate your progress. This makes a great podcast. This is me filling time. And now Phil has returned with legitimately a jean jacket.
Yeah.
This is like blue jean material. This is not corduroy in any way.
I'm looking for something that says corduroy on it.
This is not even remotely corduroy.
You're right. I can't see anything that says corduroy on it.
There's no evidence whatsoever. It looks like blue jeans that you would wear only in jacket form.
I tell you what, this rock and rolls.
It is very like Billy Joel 80s looking. Yeah, it still fits.
It still fits. That's not what you could say of most people. Oh my God, though, it's hot. I'm taking that off. Very hot.
Well, it's making me hot. That's really great. Attractive. Welcome back to the podcast.
And I wore that low cut frequently.
Did you ever wear it without a shirt underneath?
No, but I would dare.
Lorenzo Lamas kind of look.
Speaking on a fashion sense, how many buttons did you go out on unbuttoned? Many people just would do obviously the one. Okay, and it was not uncommon to do the two.
That's like the John Travolta Saturday Night Fever. Era.
As long as you weren't too.
And then you get down to like the Al Pacino Scarface level, where it's like down mid torso.
But people would dare to do that if they were either in good enough shape or they were going dancing. I mean, that was also a dancing thing.
Did you go dancing?
I mean, I had heard of clubs.
I've heard tale.
Well,
that
you
they
know,
exist.
They had whole movie series when we were kids based upon the club scene, and I didn't even realize they were. Like, Thank God It's Fridays was like a club scene thing, and I didn't even know. And all those there were other club movies, like, what was that big skating movie, which is...
Starlight Express.
No, there was another...
Xanadu?
No, it was before that. It had Marsha Brady in it.
Marsha Brady in a skating movie.
Yeah, it was like a club skating movie. Came out maybe, I don't know, mid-80s. But it was like a big skating movie.
This might be one of your fantasies that you've forgotten is not real.
No, it's true. Trust me, it's true. I watched every Marsha Brady movie there was.
You have a Marsha Brady thing.
I'm not alone.
No, you're not alone. I mean, there are other freaks out there.
I watched every Marsha Brady movie. What was your biggest fashion mistake?
Pretty much everything I wore in junior high. It's not very fashionable. I don't know. I don't know if you can tell. I say as I sit here in my Crosby, Stills, Nash concert t-shirt and a pair of shorts, I'm not terribly fashion conscious. I don't really care that much.
Do you think you could be fashionable?
It's a lot more work with my body type. I'm a little chunky. I'm fat. I'm a fat guy. And as a fat guy, it's hard to be very fashionable because men's fashion tends to emphasize straight lines and muscles and, if anything, like a V shape because you want your broad shoulders, which I do have. I have very broad shoulders, but I don't taper.
Right.
I'm more cylindrical than anything.
If you could turn yourself upside down, then you might.
Yeah, maybe I might have something. But no, it's very difficult for people who have a few pounds on them. It's very difficult to be fashion conscious unless you have a lot of money and have things custom made for you. Because if you buy off the rack, it's just not made to flatter that body type.
Right.
Fashion tends to focus on smaller people, and my God, the worst thing ever is buying women's fashions if you are not, a slim person.
Right.
Because that is, you think men's fashions are hard to sort out. Women's fashions are ridiculous. It can say, their sizing means nothing from what I can tell. Is buying women's clothing, it's a crapshoot as to whether or not this size 8 is the size 8 that you're familiar with, or it's an entirely different size 8. Mm-hmm. It means nothing whatsoever. I don't know how they manage it.
I don't know.
I would hate to be a woman and try to buy clothing.
I don't know anything about women's clothing.
It's best that you don't.
Yes.
It's best that you don't. I do because I have a daughter and I am an only parent, and so I am involved in buying clothes, especially when she was younger, and just trying to figure out what a size means. Right. It's almost impossible to know. If, as a guy, I know if I buy an extra large shirt, I know what an extra large shirt is going to fit like. So a lot of times with guys, we're so lucky you can roll into a store, you can buy a couple extra large shirts, not even bother to try them on, go home. And you're like, yeah, I'm confident this is going to fit relatively fine. But with a girl, that's why it's such a common joke is that guys are sitting there waiting on their girls in the changing rooms and stuff. There's a reason. It's because you have to try on everything because you have no idea how this is going to fit until it's on your body. Right. It's crazy. It is crazy.
There's more. Yeah.
There's more to work with a female form. Yeah.
Right. There's more dimensions to deal with that you have to take into account.
And fashion is traditionally way more hard on the women than it is on men.
Yes.
It's so much more difficult to be fashionable. There's so much more to consider whenever you're a woman, isn't it?
Where do people get their idea of what's fashionable?
I think everything flows from the internet into society anymore.
Don't the runways create the new fashion?
I guess, maybe. I don't know. I think it's more along the lines of you see someone wearing something that you think is cool, and if enough people think it's cool, then that becomes the fashion. And I'll cite something just from my own personal experience, this is very weird. This is in the 80s, mid 80s. My high school marching band had the opportunity to play in the Rose Bowl parade and the Walt Disney World New Year's Day parade.
Right.
So we went to California. We're from the Midwest. So we go to California and we see all these people and kids our age wearing Panama hats. And that was a very fashionable thing at that time to wear Panama hats. And so, we'd never really seen that as a common thing. So when we got back to Newton, everybody wanted these stupid Panama hats. And so the local, Jasper's Clothiers, which is on the square in Newton, had to buy order all these stupid Panama hats because the kids were coming in and asking for them. And that's something that you just see is out there and you want to replicate that because it's cool.
Right.
That was something that I don't think would have trickled down into Newton until long after it was not cool elsewhere. But I think that was the one time that we in Newton were in sync with one of the coasts.
The Sears catalog or the J.C. Penney's catalog would have been how we learned about fashion.
Yeah. 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 It's where you learned what women's underwear looked like.
Well, that's true too.
That's very true.
That's true. Huh. All right.
So that's what that looks like.
Comes in blue as well.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Well, I think we've covered fashion
and we've covered it thoroughly.
From head to toe.
Whoa, I see what you did there. That was very slick.
Yeah.
I like that. Welcome to another Instant Opinion. It's me, Tim.
And me, Phil.
It's good to be here with you, and I'm going to throw a few terms and phrases at Phil. It's going to be his job to render an instant opinion in 10 seconds or less. Are you ready, Phil?
I am ready for the zingers.
There are some.
All right.
Charles Nelson Riley.
Charles Nelson Riley, most underrated match game star. By far. I'd write a book on that. Downside, he's bald, and that's makes
he
him...
bald?
He was baldish.
Was he?
Baldish?
I don't remember.
Baldish?
Did he wear a toupee?
I don't think so.
Okay.
If it so, that was a poor choice on his part. In my opinion.
Okay. Road trips.
Road trips. I love really, really, really short road trips. I think they call them errands. I'm not up for long road trips where you're in the car with stinky pants, and I'm not up for road trips. I hate road trips. In West Virginia, oh my gosh, those mountains, I hate those
That's where
things.
the good radio stations don't reach you.
Well, anything where you have runaway truck ramps, that's not a good
That
place.
doesn't seem safe to me.
No.
Hickeys.
Hickeys. They're a mystery. When you try to ask your friends about how they occur and what, but it was a status symbol. If you had the hickeys, you were like, hey, you knew somebody was sucking on your skin, which could have been yourself. I suspect some of my friends were self-hicking.
Really? You think so?
Yes, they were desperate to prove their value. When you're like, you didn't get a date, you just self-hickied.
Isn't there a certain number that you can't go over? Otherwise, it becomes kind of weird.
Well, it becomes unsightly.
Yeah.
I think making sightly hickeys is a skill set.
Oh, it could be, I'm sure. Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day. I'm not in favor of it because it exploits that poor groundhog. But in the same way, I'm in favor of it because it gets us all to celebrate something silly, and that groundhog probably gets fed well.
Do you get any royalties from him being named Phil?
I think they're in customs right now. My
that right?
royalties are in customs, in state customs, which is not well known. It's a very, very slight area of the law.
The Streak by Ray Stevens.
The Streak. I love The Streak. Ethel, don't do it. Was that it?
Don't look, Ethel.
Oh, don't look, Ethel. Yeah. I knew
it was too late.
I knew it was about naked people running around. And at that juncture, I was really for it. But I'm anti The Streak in the sense that I can't do it now without a serious degree of derision.
A lot of warming up required.
Well, and stamina. To withstand old people. You know, old people can't streak.
Nobody wants old people.
Old people, first off, you can't be
You can
naked.
shuffle maybe, you're not streaking.
Old people can't be naked. It's unsightly. And then two, you're right, you can't run.
No.
It's not like you could put on a mask and then be like, oh, well, he's still here. He's still in the room.
He's not hard to catch.
That's right. Oh, there's a chair in his way. Oh, that's gonna stump him for the next 5 minutes.
No, boy. Clowns.
I hear they've been around in the woods lately. To me, that sounds crazy. Why would you get in a clown outfit, go into the woods where there are ticks? You ruin your perfectly good clown outfit. If you had one, you're going to get hot and sweaty. And just to stand there and wait and lure children, I just think like, oh, there's no children coming. I wasted a day.
Much work.
I wasted a day.
And that's been another Instant Opinion and another podcast under our belts.
From me and you.
From him and me. Bye.
Bye.
Greetings. I am Alice, highly paid digital assistant to the two moderately entertaining nerds of the Two Men podcast. Want to let us know what you thought of the show? Have a topic you'd like to hear discussed? Feel like demanding your money back? We'd love to hear from you on 2 out of those 3 questions. Drop us an email at twomencast@gmail.com. In the meantime, please rate us and leave a review on iTunes or your podcast service of choice. Also, for all discussions moderately entertaining, you can find us at facebook.com/2mencast. Please join us again next week when we'll be guaranteed to be funny. Or not.